Brothers. Today, we are not talking about a Crunchwrap Supreme, but Marty Supreme, the movie that came out Christmas Day. Brian, I got a few box office numbers for you. Would you like to hear them?
Of course I would. Tell the people.
Why, thank you. Okay, so the budget for this was $70 million, very similar to the Bob Dylan movie. Also, Timothee Chalamet was in that. And since I checked this yesterday, since it's open, they've made $28 to $32 million in that range. So they're on track to make their money back, I believe. I think this movie will continue to get momentum, and I think people will be interested in seeing it for the next month or so. And I don't think it's going to make 300 million, but I think it'll break even and perhaps make a little money. So this film was directed by Josh Safdie. Okay, and he is one of the Safdie brothers who both directed Uncut Gems and Good Times. And the writer of this film, Marty Supreme, was written by Josh Safdie and Ronald Bronstein, who is also the writer for Uncut Gems and Good Times. So we got a lot of overlap here. Brian, did you get to see it?
You know what? I didn't, honestly, but I saw, we talk on this channel, all the movies were like, where was the marketing for this movie? I saw the marketing for this movie. Timmy's been out in the streets doing all sorts of things. I don't know if this was, on the studio's behalf or just Timothy being Timmy, which we'll talk about more so. But before, we dive into the marketing, and I'll say one last little thing. For all they did, I think they missed out on the talk about Crunchwrap Supreme, Marty Supreme. You did it as a joke, but I think that's honestly genius. Missed opportunity. I still think that they did better than most, but we'll talk about that more. Steven, you saw it though. I'm confused. What was it? Was it a ping pong movie? A Taco Bell taco eating? No, I'm joking. What was the movie about?
Okay, well, I got a plotline for you. Marty Mauser, a young man with a dream no one respects, goes to hell and back in pursuit of greatness. So it's a little ambiguous, but yes, it is a fictitious film set in the 1950s, 60s that focuses on Timothee Chalamet's and Marty Mauser's drive to be the greatest ping pong player in the world.
Okay, sounds interesting. A little bit like that snippet of Forrest Gump. Where he's like the ping pong champion. And I think, ping pong is something that, as silly of a sport it is, I think it has such relatability that I think everybody, has some sort of connection to ping pong. But what'd you think of it? What was it? Was it good? Was it worth watching?
Well, first I'll say my brother is a professional ping pong player, so he's not going to like that you called it a silly sport. Okay. So let's just make that very clear. Now, this, by the way, one of the...
Wait, what brother? You don't have a brother.
Yeah, I said that for comedic effect.
Liar.
So the interesting thing about the time frame that they set this movie in was that nobody in America cared about ping pong at all. So he's this real prodigy that everybody's like, what are you doing? Like,
so
what?
Nothing's changed.
Oh, see, my brother's going to be ticked again.
Yo, shots. You can tell your imaginary brother that. Oh.
So Timothee Chalamet, not that anybody cares about my analysis of him, but I have seen improvements since the Bob Dylan movie where I thought, okay, he's fine. He's a good looking dude. He's fine. He's kind of one of these people that's popular, but it also is kind of like a pretty boy model. So I didn't really take him too seriously. But the Bob Dylan movie I saw, boom, it seemed like he really amped it up. He was so good in this movie. And I will take the time to announce that Timothee Chalamet is a elite actor who has got a real bright future ahead of him. And I know that's ridiculous to say because he's one of the biggest movie stars in the world.
Yeah, really risky call, Steven.
Yeah, that's a cold take and a half. But just from the acting standpoint, the overall casting and acting in this was really good. And most people didn't know. Maybe you knew because of the marketing. I didn't catch it. But Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank has a very prominent, the bald guy, has a very prominent role in this film. And my mom said after, she goes, he's a great actor. And I was like, Mom, the guy's not even an actor. And so
No, he's just I was calling an a-hole.
Yeah, I guess he's just a
Well,
Shark Tank TV actor, and he did really good. And from top to bottom, the acting was superb. Now, I want to comment on the cinematography a little bit. So, much like Uncut Gems, Good Time, I don't think that the cinematography from a composition standpoint is that stellar. But I do think the camera work is very poignant with regards to what's happening in the film. So a lot of close-ups, and this movie is very hectic. So there's a lot of shaky camera going on. There's a lot of moving parts. So I think it worked as not a criticism. I just haven't seen yet a Safdie Brothers film where I've been blown away by the cinematography, and that's okay. Who cares? That's just what I thought. But in line with the shaky camera, if you remember, anybody who's seen Uncut Gems, there was something very unique about that film where the sound design was so in your ears, not in your face, and so overlapped that it raises your stress levels, because you're trying to listen to a conversation between me and Brian, and then there's a guy over here, and for some reason, the sound designer, and perhaps it was the Safdie brothers' idea, it was just a lot of overlap and a lot of hectic stuff going on. So your brain is constantly firing and trying to figure out, what am I focused on? So that was a part of what makes, I would say, the Safdie brothers movies interesting and unique in a way, but also stressful and not an easy watch in that regard. So, Brian, I would like to ask you, I sat down with my parents after watching the movie and I go, guys, we need ratings out of 10. What do we got? So what do you think Papa gave it, Mom, and me?
all right. Your dad gave it a 8. Julie gave it a 5, and you gave it a 7.
Okay. You were, close, but not that close. Dad gave it a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
Mom gave it a 6. I gave it an 8.5.
Okay.
Now, my ratings are always based on how good of a piece of art I think it is.
Yeah.
But my rating for my personal enjoyment and entertainment was like a 7.
Okay.
So I get why my parents, kind of maybe didn't love it, because they don't really necessarily separate.
Appreciate some of those things.
And they're not they don't watch, German films from the 30s. They're not nerds,
they're not
like
a
I
loser.
am.
They just birthed one.
Yeah, there you go. Right. So
you gotta. What is the expression? It takes one to know one.
Sure. Yeah, yes. There you go.
Just from one loser to another, brother.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we're
just on a podcast that nobody's listening to.
But I think the valid criticisms that both my parents had and that I had as well, but it helped illuminate after talking. It was probably 10 minutes too long.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing a little bit. And that's every single movie. These directors nowadays never heard of the term 90 minutes. What do they think? What do they think? They must have too much free time on their hand. And that's when artists, can't separate themselves enough from their art. Is don't have 2.5 freaking hours,
Right. It was 150 minutes. And,
they're in love with it.
I do think, 5, 7, 10 minutes is not like a major knock. But one of the things that my dad pointed out, which was very accurate, is the film was a little bit disjointed. So there were some side scenes that you go, I don't know. But anyway, that's my whole analysis. I would 1000% go recommend it to people. And what was interesting about this film, and a part of why people aren't going to go yay and feel so warm and fuzzy about this movie, is because the character that Timothée Chalamet plays is only redeemable in the sense that he says this in the movie, was born for one specific purpose: to be the greatest ping pong player ever. And so he's lying to people. He's conning people.
Okay.
He's not really that good of a dude throughout the movie, but you believe, you want him to succeed because he's so driven. So anyway, enough listening to me talk about the film. Brian, I want to hear about the marketing.
Well, first off, you got to admit you're so biased because your brother is in the ping pong industry. So I think anything you got to say is null and void. But I think I feel the same sentiments about the Safdie brothers as well. I think that they're more so kind of that French wave documentary of like get in there and show it. And I think even directors like Christopher Nolan are of that manner where they're like we're just gonna throw this on somebody's shoulder and get in there and tell this story real 360 and the camera work isn't like Roger Deakins like, oh, this is just on a dolly and sliced perfectly like the cook that I'm not. Sorry, the horrible expressions. It's just what I do here. But so it's rough, and I think that's the story. Again, 90 minutes. I think it forces you to about a real consolidated ideas. That's been a theme that I've heard with a lot of movies of it just like not feeling like it knows what it really is, and these longer movies really lend itself to that. But let's focus on the marketing, and I think. A lot of movies nowadays in Hollywood are lacking this much. That Ella whatever movie Disney, I didn't even hear about it, and it's already like I just see the news of it getting pulled, and I'm like, all right, it's kind of like you're setting. It's like when my fiance, she's setting me up for failure, where it's like, oh, I'm pissed at you because you didn't get me dinner because I was hungry, but you never told me you were hungry. So how the hell am I supposed to know?
Sure.
You got to tell me that a movie's coming out for me to know it.
Right.
And it's been lacking. I think that they're almost like kind of trying to have it reinforce their narratives or something else is going on. But it's nice to see Timmy out there. He's doing weird things with like aesthetic kid, whatever everyone thinks. I think some of it's just natural because to me is really the only superstar that carries weight in today's world in the way that like a movie star is supposed to of like this press tour of like I'm just going to go out in social media and like everything I do is going to be in promotion of this movie, from going on WWE whatever, getting interviewed,
He was on College Game Day. He was on College Game Day 4 months or like 5-6 months ago. He did a great job.
Yeah, and I think that this has been a really intentional and methodical attempt at marketing because they recognize, and I heard this, and this might be wrong, and I think that there will be a lot of females that like this, but from the few gauges, it seems to be a little bit more masculine leaning, male leaning, and it's, I think with the press that Timmy has done, it's been very like go to College Game Day. They've known their demographic. They've gone after males. They've gone after everybody, really. He's really out there. So I think utilizing social media and having these actors have more fun with it. Like, it doesn't, I don't want to see you sit down and, talk about this movie. Don't even bother. Just like have him, he's doing like weird things. Like they're releasing like Zoom videos of like, he's like Timothee's like on a Zoom call with the PR team agency, and he's like pitching ideas, and he's like flap, and it's ridiculous, and it's like satirical, and it's a joke, and it's like part of it's leaning into how social media is now of like not being able to tell when something's real or a skit. And like he's making like they've leaning into that like, hey, we don't need to do a commercial, we don't need to do a stunt interview. Let's record a fake Zoom call like we are right now, where Timothy's like fake giving PR ideas of like how he wants us to go. Like he was like, this is how I want the commercial to go. And like every 5 seconds he was doing that, and it was ridiculous. But I was like, this kid understands the zeitgeist right now and what like gets through, because like sitting down and having like this real polished interview isn't that, and that doesn't, and regardless of how this movie performs, Hollywood needs to take notes on the marketing of this movie, which I think has been really pivotal and will be so in the new era of marketing movies.
So I was watching, to your point, I was watching on Instagram. I all of a sudden there's a girl who's a really funny comedian, not stand up, but just makes really funny videos on Instagram, and she's just talking into the camera about something. And I think she was holding a ping pong racket. I'm not 100% sure.
It's weird, and he was just sitting in the back.
And he's just sitting in the back, and I was
Yeah,
like, to your point, dude, like
he understands.
why would you ever want to watch Vanity Fair sit down and go, so tell me about this new project you're doing? Like nobody cares. And it was so yeah. So I'm just reiterating
it was less and more at the same time. And again, it was connecting, and regardless of how this movie performs, I think this is how you market it in today's society. And I think, Timmy executed. So, regardless of this movie, I want to go check it out myself. I want to support that effort that Timothy is. He is solidified himself as a future movie star right now and for the future. So, he's got our watch. And I think, again, it's like the response to failures in the industry is not to give up on it. It is to keep trudging and keep trying to find a way. And I'm glad that there's artists still working like Christopher Nolan and Timothee Chalamet. Whatever I've thought about him, he loves this stuff, and he respects the art form, and he, I gotta give it respects, and the marketing is the big the biggest shining star about the movie is actually not the movie itself, in my opinion. I haven't even seen it yet, so that's not a fair statement for me to make. But Steven, any last notes before we leave everybody to go back on to their everyday lives and dream big?
Yeah, by the way, this is how Brian and I spend New Year's Eve. We're just talking about movies, but
big plans, big dreams, big plans.
I think you're right, Brian. The marketing is just as successful as the film, if not more. I mean, there's arguments either way, but here's what I'll say, and I think my mom is very right about this. She said so many movies don't have very good endings, and that's very true. I think just throughout time, it's very difficult to do, especially, recently, whatever. This ending is perfect.
Wow.
It fits the story, and it exactly resembles the character arc of what Marty Mauser should get. So anyway, the ending was good. Hopefully with this was good. This is the end, Brian. It's always great spending New Year's Eve with you.
It really is. And I got one last little note, and now that I think about it, is like, I don't know if this is repeatable. I think that almost is like you have to be huge, like a huge super. Maybe this is more of a textbook on how to get back to making your superstars. And it's just like, because if you don't know the actor, it loses its gimmick. So it's like, if this is what they need to do for people who are well known, is get candid, get out with your smaller creators in social media. So that's our 2 cents from two men that probably don't have 2 cents. Well, Steven's got more than me. Dream big, everybody. We love you. We'll catch you all in another episode of The Blockbuster Brothers.
Yeah.